Welcome back to the Healthy Skin Coach Show. I'm your host, Takashi, helping you biohack your life for healthier skin and longevity. Today, I have a good friend with me on the podcast. His name's Eric Koepp, and he is the founder of Skinesa, which is a skin probiotic with strains of bacteria proven in clinical studies to help you improve your skin. Thank you for joining the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Takashi. I'm a big fan of yours.
And I'm a fan of yours. And it's funny because I look back on this journey, and it was last fall when I had my crazy eczema flare up, and I was researching literally everything to help heal without going to the doctors or dermatologists who will give me more steroid creams that don't work on me anymore because I've used over 20 in my lifetime. And my skin has become so sensitive and so thin, and they just don't work anymore. So I was desperately searching for alternative solutions. And I knew that it was something gut related. It wasn't a skin problem, it was a gut problem. I started learning about probiotics and came across your website and found it fascinating that there is a skin probiotic. And then I reached out to you over email, I think. And then you called me while I was at the office. And then we had like a 1 hour powwow just to discuss the science behind Skinesa. So let's get into your background and what inspired you to create Skinesa.
Well, that's interesting because I was about 2 years ahead of you in my own journey with my skin. And I also had a skin issue, not as bad as yours. I was misdiagnosed. I didn't even know what I had, whether it was eczema or psoriasis. It's just like, oh, you have a little eczema. So I didn't even deal with it. It was just like on my elbow and on my knee and on my ankle. And I would put lotion on it and I would just try to cover it up. And sometimes it would flare up and it would look pretty nasty. And there was just nothing I could do. And it was like 20 years that I had that. And what I discovered was I started taking probiotics, different ones. And there was just this one strain, Lactobacillus Rhamnosus. It's one species, I should say. And I took it and it cleared up my skin. And I'm a very unique situation. This is only like a one-person example. But it cleared up my skin in 4 days. So I'd had this condition for 26 years. I took this probiotic and it cleared up in 3 different locations completely. Like I was like getting ready one morning and I was like, whoa, this is bizarre. What is happening? Like gone, like a baby's bottom, like perfect skin. It's like, wow, is that the probiotic? So then, of course, that was really hard to believe. So I tested it a few times off and on, and it would work every time. Gave it to some friends, sent it to my dad. It didn't really help my dad, helped my neighbor, helped somebody that I used to work with. So there was like something there, and especially to experience it firsthand, you're like, wow, what is going on? So I just like dropped everything that I was doing and just like dove into the science like head first, and like was reading like 16 hours a day. I was just so consumed and just blown away by the science of the gut microbiome, the skin microbiome, the two-way street, how they communicate, and just how complicated it is. And ended up finding out that we wanted to try to share it with the world. So I ended up talking to my friend out in San Francisco, and it just so happens that he's a scientist, and his professor's mentor is a guy who came up with a supplement called creatine monohydrate back in the 90s, which I used to take all the time, to get muscles. And it's like, one of the best evidence-based supplements of all time. It has like 50 clinical, or he was involved with 50 clinical trials around it. So he introduced us to this gentleman who is a scientist and a scholar, a real expert. And he kind of planted the seed in us that, you should look for these evidence-based ingredients, which means like they're backed by science, or they're backed by clinical trials. In dermatology clinics where, the dermatologists don't know who's getting the placebo, or the patients don't know who's getting the probiotics. And it's like a legitimate test. It's not just clinically proven, like, somebody down the street handing out a supplement to somebody and go, oh, that's clinically proven. No, this is tested in different dermatology clinics, and then all that data is put together and then reviewed, by a third party, and then it gets accepted for publication. In this case, into the world's top dermatology journal for skin, so a medical journal. So when we show this to doctors, they get it right away. They're like, oh yeah, I can hand this out, to my patients. This is a really great probiotic blend. It's like, it's validation. So he kind of planted that seed in our heads that you really need this evidence-based ingredients. And lo and behold, this is the only evidence-based probiotic blend like in the world that's been published in the top dermatology journal in the world. So nobody's really sold this before, and it just so happens we kind of stumbled upon it because, we were really researching, and we were researching for months, 6 months. So when we got to him, we weren't empty-handed. We had like all this research of probiotics for skin, and there's some products out there already. There's one in Italy, there's one in South Korea, and they have, decent results, but the journals that they're published in, the dermatology journals, are in different countries. They're in Japan, they're in South Korea, they're in Italy. So it's different, than being in an American dermatology journal. So when we, discovered that we had access to these, probiotics that had been published in an American dermatology journal, and we were just like, wow, this is incredible, because, we have been researching this. And so step back a minute, so we were studying for about 6 months. We presented all this data, to him, to show him what we had, all the research that we had done. And we ranked, the probiotic strains, all the probiotic strains in the world that we could find in the scientific literature. We ranked them and said, here's what we got. Can we put these together and share with the world? We're obviously onto something incredible. How can we help other people? And so he took our data, we hired him, and he agreed to look at our data. We're not scientists. We just happened to be fascinated by what happened and wanted to share it with the world. So we needed an expert. So he went through all of our information, and he discovered that, these scientists had just recently, at the end of 2018, 2019, had been published in JAMA Dermatology, these incredible results where 9 out of 10 ended up clearing up their skin. They had real problematic skin. So I was like, wow, let's see if we can share this with the world. Let's put this in a bottle and, put it together the right way and share it with the world. So that's kind of like my little story. I hope I explained it okay. I've been operating. I'm probably on 5 hours of sleep here for the last 2 months. We have a 3 and 4-year-old at home, so I hope that kind of explains. That's kind of my the background of the story on how we were able to source the world's best probiotic blend for skin and put it in a bottle.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Share it with the world.
Yeah, amazing. Could you describe more about the research you did in terms of how 92% of people saw clear skin?
Yeah, so I didn't do the research. That was, scientists, but you can read the journal online, JAMA Dermatology. It's the world's top dermatology journal. And you can basically just Google the strains that are on the back of the box, and you can, read the study. What I tell a lot of people is, they ask, is this safe for children? Is it safe for me? And what I try to tell everybody is, anytime you take a new supplement of any kind, of dietary supplement, run it past your doctor, show them what you're doing, because you could get all sorts of dietary supplements. It's just the Wild West out there. Is another thing that we discovered in our research. There's no FDA regulation to go through. So it's really, really crazy. And I think I've shared you this. So only 1 in 500 probiotics on the shelf today are backed by science, backed by published science. So that's everything on the shelf doesn't have a clinical trial behind it, which is amazing. So it's just you and I could go and find some species, throw them in a bottle, and put skin probiotic on it and just sell it to the world. And there's no regulations whatsoever. You have to do, the right manufacturing processes and all of that. But you can put just about anything you want to a bottle and market it however you want. So that's quite a challenge for us now, is like, how do we explain that to people? Because, you know, the marketing of it is just, you know, I rewind back when I was a consumer and just looking into buying probiotics, is sold as a CFU count. So, you know, you look into probiotics, you're like, oh, I want, you know, a 10 billion probiotic. Well, then just reason would have that, well, 20 billion is probably better. And then 30 billion. And then, you know, 50 billion, and just up and up and up. And while I was testing on myself, doing a little guinea pig on myself, you know, I went all the way up to 90 billion. And that ended up breaking out my skin. And you know what? It wasn't backed by science, what I was doing. I just went to the store, and you see these brands, they have like, you know, 10 different products, and they look very professional, and they got a doctor on the box. You're like, oh, well, this is probably great. And you look at the back, and it's just species: Lactobacillus Rhamnosus, Lactobacillus casei, you know, Lactobacillus, you know, plantarum, whatever it is. There's no strain listed a lot of times. So you're just getting species in a bottle. So I ended up taking this 90 billion, and then my skin broke out. And I don't know if I told you this story, but as luck would have it, this weekend that I was testing on myself, this 90 billion, so I broke out. That weekend, I was scheduled to go to Boston and meet with some scientists there to kind of see if I could, you know, ask them about what happened. And I ended up getting tested, my skin and my gut microbiomes before and after the breakout. So I was testing this 90 billion. I went to Boston, and I met a scientist there, Dr. Rita Caldwell. She's at the University of Maryland. And she has a company there that was able to test my skin microbiome and my gut microbiome. It's called Cosmos ID. And you have trillions of microbes on your skin and on in your gut. And they were able to, at the highest resolution imaginable, see what happens. Because, like I said, I can clear up my skin in 4 days with the right formula that I have. So I went there, and I broke out, and I said, hey, Rita, what is going on? Take a look at my elbow. What do you think this is? She's like, we have no idea just by looking at it. Might be Staph aureus. I could test that for you. We have an award-winning company called Cosmos ID that, you know, we can swab it and test it. I was like, oh, that's amazing. How much is that? You know, it was like $400 or something. I was like, wow. So, but at this point, I was like so amazed that was what was happening, just learning all this new stuff. I was like, fine, let's do it. And then I started taking the formula that I know would work for me. And sure enough, in 4 days, I did my gut as well, gut and skin at the same time. 4 days later, gone, just like every other time, and sent them both back in. I saw the before and after of, you know, the difference in the microbial makeup. What I discovered was I was onto something. Something was happening, right? And that these products out there that were just, you know, taken could almost be like dangerous, or could be like, they're definitely not helpful, all of them. They're not backed by science. And there was another study that just came out. I think I showed you that it was like 66% of products. They did a test. Let me see if I have this here. They did a test of 121 probiotic products, and 66% of them did not contain what was marked on the bottle.
Wow.
121. So they did 100, like, of the top probiotic brands out there. They took them all. 66% didn't even have the strain that was listed on the package. So it's like, that's what I mean by it's like the Wild West. Like, you don't even know what you're getting. And then, you know, it's just, I found so many probiotic myths out there. You know, one of them is the CFU count. It doesn't mean much, you know. And it could even be hurtful, like it was in my case. You know, CFU is colony forming units, for anybody that doesn't know. And it's, you know, like, you know, it's the 10 billion, 20 billion. And the best dose is really the one that has been tested in human clinical trial and showed a positive health outcome. That's all you need. So that's all you need to have in the bottle. So you don't need 50 billion in the bottle if in the clinical trial it was 2 billion that worked. So that was like one of the big myths that we discovered. And the reason that I kind of figured that out is because, I think I told you this, we went to the National Eczema Association last year. It's been canceled this year, the annual event in Phoenix. met a lot of people there. In fact, a lot of people that have the topical steroid withdrawal, very similar to yourself, for like 20 years. So we were able to help some people there. You know, our first customer, Emily, is pretty interesting. Very similar story to you, where for 20 years, she was just prescribed topical steroids. And at a certain point, they, like you said, it stops working, and then you become addicted to it, right? And then I think your body stops producing cortisol, and then you have to take it for the rest of your life. Or you have to stop, and then you have topical steroid withdrawal, which I don't know much about, but I've heard the stories, which are nightmarish, it sounds like. So a few years ago, she decided to stop doing the topical steroids, and she's going through that now. So you think, you know, it could be like 3 to 8 years where you're on withdrawals, right?
Yeah, and some of the pictures out there are really sad to see, just because they look so miserable. Their skin is flaking off, and it's red, it's irritated, and that's 24/7. Like, when I was suffering, I couldn't sleep because the pain I was in every single second. And you can't move. Every time you move, it feels like someone's pinching you 1,000 times. And that's what it feels like. It's like I would rather get waterboarded than have severe eczema, honestly, because that pain is just constant. It's nagging, constant pain.
Oh my God, awful.
Yeah. And for the viewers and listeners out there, just to summarize, at grocery stores, you see a bunch of probiotics and you're sold on the marketing because it has the number of CFUs is like 60 or 90 billion. And most people are uninformed about probiotics or misinformed, and they just buy whatever's on the shelf. Well, the biggest problem is that they only show the genus and species of bacteria. They don't show the strain of bacteria. There are hundreds of different strains in one species, and each strain has a health benefit or it can damage your health. And what Eric is saying is Skinesa has strains of bacteria that have been proven in clinical studies to improve the skin. And it was published in a leading dermatology journal. And in 90 days, over 90% of participants saw healthier skin.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can add a little point to that too. Yeah, in order to be a probiotic, you technically need to have genus, species, and strain. So if that's not on the back of the bottle, that's technically, you can't even define that as a probiotic. I mean, maybe, but how are you going to look up a species? How you can't Google that. And you know, that's the other thing that the probiotic companies will do is they can put 10 probiotic strains in a bottle and you can see them all in the back. And then you can look up the strains like, oh, this one was studied on this one was studied on this. Oh, this one was studied on skin. This one has skin. But they combine them with all of these. So now you have 10 and all tested for different things, but it looks good. But then what I learned is that they'll include these ground-based organisms, like the Bacillus coagulans, Bacillus subtilis, some of these other ones that are beneficial. They can be great. And these are live organisms, so they're difficult to keep alive on the shelf. So if you put these soil organisms in there, they'll stay alive forever. You can throw them on the shelf and 50 million years. I mean, something crazy like that. They're in the ground. They can last for a long, long time. They're just like in a state of suspended animation until they get in your gut. So what they do, the point that I'm trying to get to is that, let's say there's a bottle of 30 billion. Well, they'll put Bacillus subtilis in there, and that'll be 29 billion. And then they'll include 10 awesome strains that you can Google and see all these incredible results, but that'll be 1 billion. And so you'll get 29 billion plus of the Bacillus subtilis, guaranteeing that you're gonna get 30 billion CFUs with the 1 billion that they described to me as window dressing. Because when we first started out, we started looking into these products that, you know, like maybe this will help people generally for skin if we include all of the good strains in one bottle. But that's one of the like kind of secrets that they'll do is, you know, support the product with a ground-based organism that have a long shelf life, but then you won't get the benefits of all of the other ones because they're not in there really. They're just window dressed.
And most of these generic probiotics don't even really reach your gut because they might be digested away by the stomach acid. So could you describe how your probiotics survive the digestion process.
Yeah, that's really interesting because we were really looking into that closely. And that's another thing that's in marketing, right? Is you'll see when you're shopping for probiotics is that our strains are guaranteed to survive the stomach and get where they need to go into the small intestine. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we read that and we asked the scientist about that. And it turns out that they used a veggie cap in our studies. So nothing special. These strains get to where they need to go and show up on the skin, show up clear in your skin. So in our case, the answer is we don't know where exactly they go. They haven't been tested if they survive the stomach acid or where they go exactly. That would be another study. But what they found is that for 92% of people, after 90 days, that it clears up their skin. So that would be a different study. And when we were formulating it with these experts, as novices, we were like, well, how is it getting to the, small intestine? Isn't that where it needs to go? Shouldn't we use DR caps? And, we were talking when I went to Boston, I met with some experts I met the guys from DR caps, real sophisticated technology. They will get it to the small intestine, right exactly where it needs to go. They use it for medicine. So I said, should we use DR caps? It seems like we should. And, that goes back to science. And it's like, well, what proof do you have that DR caps are going to work? They didn't use DR caps in the study. They used veggie caps. So if we change the formula, not use what the experts used in the clinical trials, in the same exact CFUs, we didn't change anything, then we'd be changing the formula. What if we don't know the exact mechanism, exactly where it goes, how it's delivered? We just know it works on the skin. So if we change the delivery mechanism and we deliver the whole thing to the small intestine, then we don't know does it work better? Does it work worse? Wasn't a risk we were willing to take because it's working for 9 out of 10 people with a veggie cap. So it's interesting. I would like to know. We just don't know the answer if it survives the stomach acid or what exactly, or which strains do, which strains don't, or how it's absorbed. It's fascinating. It's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But based on the successful results, we're assuming that it survives the stomach acid and enters the small intestines where it needs to be in order to see the health benefit in the skin.
Yeah, you and I could say that.
Yeah, and majority of the people out there are uninformed about the entire supplement industry and how 90% is all marketing with no really science backing it up. And we really don't know the bioavailability of these nutrients and minerals that we take in and how it's actually converted inside the body.
Yeah, it's incredible, like these little nuances that in order to take things the right way, you just can't know as a consumer unless you stumble upon it or you're told or you're lucky enough to know the answers. And I think you and I have learned this, just like there's different, like if we were to create an algorithm, the different boxes that you need to check off. And we did this together when we first met. It's just like, you might be allergic to some things. Check your detergent, what's going on there. But in regards to like the nuances, it's like we have this microbial imbalance. I see in the forums, like in the Reddit and Facebook groups, and everybody's looking for an answer. And so many times people miss, the microbial aspect of it. It's like you have a skin microbiome and a gut microbiome. I have psoriasis. I thought I had eczema. You have eczema. But I've learned so much in the last few years that it's like you have to check off these two boxes, when you're trying to heal yourself. It's your skin microbiome. What are you doing with your skin microbiome if you have eczema? It's like, when I went to Phoenix, I met Dr. Aaron. That's like your last stop on planet Earth. If you can't sleep at night and you're like in the worst case scenario, right? Dr. Aaron, South Africa. And like, that's where you have to go and he'll fix you. Well, what does he manage? He manages Staph aureus, but nobody really knows that for some reason. And when I met him, I was like, can you tell me one insight? How can I help people? What message could I give to people? And he was like, he's practiced dermatology for 50 years now. It's like the patients that I've seen, over 9 out of 10 of them have an active Staph aureus overgrowth. So that box, you got to check off if you're coming in. But No, everybody doesn't know that. So you're dealing with that. And then like the answer is there's like 2 products that can do that, that can help you with that. And that's it. So you could test on yourself all day long with steroids and all this other stuff and never get the answer. You never find the answer. Or maybe you're lucky enough to, put some Macuba honey on there or whatever it's called, by accident and help you out. But my point is there's this like one product out there that's backed by science that can help you. And it's GladSkin, right? Did you try GladSkin?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So GladSkin is a novel eczema cream that uses a virus to kill off the staph bacteria on the skin. And I just want to reiterate that in eczema patients, 90% of them have colonies of staph bacteria growing on their skin and preventing them from healing. And it makes your skin itchy and you keep itching it, and the staph on your fingers keep getting into the itch, making your skin worse and worse and worse. And GladSkin is a product that can help kill off the staph on the skin in order for you to start healing. I also sell almond oil on my website that has antibacterial properties and can kill off the staph and help rebalance the skin microbiome. So I sell both products on my website. Check it out at thehealthyskincoach.com.
Very nice. I mean, that's really it. I don't know too much about the almond. I'll have to look into that. That sounds interesting. But yeah, I do know with the GladSkin, that's fascinating. I didn't know about the virus, or the exact technology or how it works. I just happen to know, that's the only one that attacks that staph. And you had, 9 out of 10 people have staph.
Mm-hmm. And it's called a bacteriophage that injects its DNA into the staph bacteria, and during the replication process, it kills off the staph bacteria. The science itself is fascinating.
Have you ever seen a bacteriophage?
No.
You haven't seen one?
Mm.
Oh my gosh. Stop what you're doing right now if you're listening to this and just Google bacteriophage and you'll be blown away. You got to go check this out. It's like the most incredible thing you'll ever see.
Yep.
You will be blown away. You're like, that's a real thing? Yeah, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So then the other piece of that, so my whole point is just like the little nuances, like if you know that, it's like, that's just one checkbox. Even like, okay, I have an active Staph aureus overgrowth. I know I need to balance that with the right product. So put the right product on and you can kind of check that box off and then kind of move on to the next thing. Because then you also could have allergies, right? I had a dairy allergy for 20 years. I had no idea that I had some idea that I had it. I just thought it was something less than an allergy. Maybe I was sensitive to it. But no, I was like poisoning myself for 30 years. And maybe that had something to do with my skin. But I was definitely not feeling well every time I ate dairy. And that's kind of what we discovered with you, with your journey. And it's just like that the next box is like your gut. Your gut has 38 trillion microbes down there, and 70+% of your immune system is residing down there as well, and your gut wall is down there, allowing pathogens to come in and out of your system. So you need to like really protect your gut, and you really know this, I think, firsthand, because when I first met you, you were having all sorts of issues, right? And I was like, are you allergic? Based on my history, I'm like, are you allergic to anything? Because you don't seem to be getting better with everything you're doing. You have everything kind of getting close. And then what happened?
Yeah.
Tell them the story. You looked up.
So I want to start with 70% of the human population is lactose intolerant to some degree. And for some people, they might have diarrhea or digestion problems. For others, it shows up in the skin. Again, because 70 to 80% of your immune system lies in the gut. And when the immune system is compromised, then the symptoms can show up in the skin, in the muscles, in the joints, in the mind. And as you said, food can be the ultimate poison as well. I always say food is the ultimate medicine. But if you're eating the wrong foods, it can be the ultimate poison. And you have to know your body. You have to understand it. When I was flaring up, I hadn't taken a food sensitivity test ever. And I didn't know what foods were making me break out. But after I had taken the food sensitivity test, I found out that it was the sausage pizza, which has gluten, dairy, and red meat.
That's a nuclear bomb.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with trifecta of inflammatory foods for my body that caused the initial flare up. And the most reactive food was tea. So I was drinking 3 to 5 glasses of tea every day, trying to reduce inflammation because it contains really powerful anti-inflammatory ingredients like epigallocatechins, EGCGs, that help reduce inflammation. But for my body, it was just the most reactive thing. So if I had not taken the food sensitivity test, I would still be flaring up. And who knows, I might have been flaring up for the rest of my life.
Unbelievable,
Who
right?
knows?
So, and then you'd be like, oh, these products aren't working. What's going on? But like you just pouring flames on.
Right. So I recommend everyone to understand their own specific bodies. And if you need a food sensitivity test done, you can email me at thehealthyskincoach@gmail.com. I can hook you up with a special lab that I am in contact with.
And an allergy test.
Yes. And it's important to know that food allergies are different than food sensitivities. Food allergies show up almost immediately within 10 minutes in the skin or as an anaphylactic shock. Food sensitivities show up 3 or 4 days after you ingest the food. It has to go through the digestion process. And once it's completed, it releases all these inflammatory chemicals, some of them being cytokines and leukotrienes and prostaglandins, which I talk about a lot because when you accumulate these inflammatory chemicals, it leads to every medical condition you can think of. Heart disease, which is the #1 cause of death. Cancers like colon cancer and prostate cancer. It can reach your brain in the form of Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's patients had 5 times higher prostaglandins than healthy patients. It can lead to kidney failure. People who suffered from kidney failure had 35 times higher prostaglandins than healthy patients. So the list goes on. And that's why I'm trying to share this message. If you don't take care of your body now, you are accumulating all these inflammatory chemicals that will eventually bite you back, whether that's tomorrow or in 10 years or in 20 years. You might get lucky. It might take 30 years. For me, I experienced everything at the age of 26. And now I am hyper focused on optimizing my health, on biohacking my life for longevity and for clear skin. And I want to help you achieve that same level of optimal health. Drop the mic.
Boom. Oh, so that's a good segue for a couple of different things. So if we could just rewind here for a minute. So when we first started talking to you, we read about your history. You went to Notre Dame, right? And your mom, your story with your mom in Iowa. It was actually a really deep story. And, you know, Ryan was telling me, I'm like, this Takashi guy, he's really fascinating, and we're really talking about a lot of interesting topics, and he's really interested in our company, and we've had a few conversations. So Ryan Googled your name, and there was that story of you and your mom on there, and I don't know if you want to tell the story, but Ryan and I both read it, and we both had like tears in our eyes when we read the story. It was just like, wow. And like one of the things that really hit home is like you promised your mom that you wanted to be like the best person that you could be and help the most people, with a positive attitude. And that like really hit home. It was like, wow, this is like a really cool guy. And the same thing happened to me. My mom passed away in 2006. So she's been gone for a while. But I had similar feelings the same way. So it's pretty awesome that, both of us, kind of dropped what we were doing in a previous life. And now we're like, let's help people. So it's a pretty good feeling. And we're getting tons and tons of testimonials. They're flooring, some of them. This has changed my life. I'm a customer for life. And it just so happens that, we're just, checking off one of these boxes for people that have a lot of other things figured out, just haven't figured out the gut. And this is like just one missing piece that's changing people's lives and helping them out. And you're doing the same thing. So I'm sure your mom is proud of you and what you're doing.
Oh yeah, thank you. And just a little backstory. My mom was always stressed. She went through a bad divorce, and immigrated to America just with me, and was a single mom trying to raise a kid while in a new country and at a new job. And she was always stressed, and I could feel that stress just killing her slowly. And she eventually died from ovarian cancer, way too young.
Oh man.
And that taught me that no amount of money can get in the way of health. Health is your most important asset. Health is the foundation for everything. And then when I went through my eczema flare up, I understood firsthand how stress can aggravate the condition, because stress actually triggers your sympathetic nervous system to produce more cortisol, which creates chronic inflammation, which then triggers a lot of these medical conditions. And at that time, I had my wallet and phone stolen at a concert, and that stress triggered my flare up. So until I managed my stress, there was no way I could heal properly. Yeah. And now I manage my stress by doing the Wim Hof method of breathing techniques. I do cold showers, and I do saunas at the gym, all to reduce inflammation, all to give me a calmer mind and help me optimize my health in the best way possible.
Yeah, it's so important, because stress will just trump everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so important. It's like the top thing. It's just like one of those check boxes you have to check off. You're stressed all the time. Just about anything that you do is not gonna have you have to have them all the boxes checked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that story. The other thing I wanted to mention, the lack of fruits and vegetables in the American diet. And, speaking of immigration, I think I've shared this study with you. Immigrants that move from Southeast Asia to the United States, they lose their gut microbiome diversity in just 2 generations. And they're showing that this lack of gut microbiome diversity is part of getting obese and ill. So they move over here, they have a high fiber diet where they're getting enough fruits and vegetables. They move over to the United States and they become obese and ill. They're observing that it's the Western diet plays a huge role, and that you come over here and you get your fast food, convenience food, comfort food, and you just forget about eating fruits and vegetables, and you become ill. And you also lose your gut microbiome diversity. So it's super important to eat enough fruits and vegetables. It seems like such common sense. But when you peel it back and look at it, the Institute of Medicine recommends that you get 38 grams a day of whole plants, of dietary fiber, fruits and vegetables. 38 grams a day. It's a lot.
That's a lot.
And women, 25 grams. And if you don't get enough, your gut microbes go extinct, and then you lose them. And so they're not there to provide the health benefits anymore. And then all these other pressures in the Western world also can make your gut microbes go extinct. And I'd imagine the same thing is going on in your skin with your microbes there. And Dr. Blazer wrote a book about it called Missing Microbes. So it's pretty interesting. It's just that's another checkbox, just eat enough fruits and vegetables.
Mm-hmm. I would say 99.9% of Americans don't get the required amounts of fiber every single day in order to live a healthy life. And I know I don't, but for me, I'm fasting a lot. I do a lot of intermittent fasting, which is also great at reducing inflammation and activating your longevity genes. There's also an overemphasis on eating all the time, eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then snacks in between. And that mindset needs to shift to a more caloric restricted diet, which has been proven in studies to help you live longer, because it recycles dead proteins in cells through autophagy, which is a concept that was discovered by Dr. Yoshinori, who won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2016. So the less we eat, the longer we live. Now, when you do eat, you want to get in the key nutrients and minerals you need from fruits and vegetables and healthy fish and nuts. Those are probably my 4 main sources of nutrients right now. And anything other than that really is not doing much for your health when it comes to carbs like breads and sugars like desserts and all the fast food that's out there. trust me, I love the taste. I used to grow up on fast food and in the chicken sandwiches and the fries and chicken nuggets. I loved all that. But once a medical condition develops and blindsides you at the age of 26, then you start watching your diet to focus on nutrition as the most important thing, which will allow me to live the most fulfilling life possible.
Yeah, that's solid. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and dietary fiber, there's studies out there of over 1 million people lower all-cause mortality by like more than 10% when you're on a diet that eats enough dietary fiber. You live longer. I mean, these studies come out over and over and over again.
Yeah. And I think the hardest thing is to change human behavior because we've become so addicted to the sugars and to the carbs and to living a comfortable life where we don't exercise. We're just sitting all day. We're not getting enough sunlight, which is the easiest and cheapest way to get vitamin D. So America is 90% vitamin D deficient or insufficient, and 90% omega-3 deficient or insufficient, which is also very important at reducing inflammation. And all these coronavirus deaths could have been prevented because a lot of these patients are obese or diabetic, and they have more inflammation accumulated inside the body from years of the wrong diet. And that increases the risk of cytokine storms happening because of the virus, which shuts down organs and eventually leads to death. So America just needs a wake-up call in terms of nutrition and public health. And one of my goals is to get that message across that you can start optimizing your health starting today.
Those are big numbers too. It's like, we're talking to you right now out there. It's like 90% of you have if you have eczema, you have over 90% of you have an active Staph aureus overgrowth. You said 99% of Americans are deficient in dietary fiber. I've seen the exact studies where it's 97% by a 50% shortfall. It's 97%. There might be other ones, but I've seen that one, and 97%, that's you listening to this right now. Yeah. You're not eating enough fruits and vegetables. And what does that mean? It means that your microbes could be going extinct. That's the science that they're observing. And that's like Stanford science, Erica Sonnenberg studying that, like top scientists, or Dr. Blazer, missing microbes. So that, these statistics, where you said 90% vitamin D shortage, right?
Mm-hmm. And omega-3 shortage.
That's you too listening to this, or us right here listening to this. So it's like there's these big bullseyes. It's like, oh, wow, I need to eat more of that. You could just start small. It's like, I just need to eat more fruits and vegetables daily. And then, like, just today, for example, like I had some salmon for breakfast, just on a Saturday, some egg and a little potato. That seems like the healthiest thing, right? It seems pretty healthy. That's 0 grams of fiber. That's nowhere getting near close to 38 for the day. But for the day, you got to be 10, 10, and 10, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then for your snacks, you need to be getting 4 and 4. It's a lot of fiber. So you really have to, like you said, like change your lifestyle and just observe what's going on. And if you do observe what's going on and you go to any national holiday, there's no fruits and vegetables holiday. It's all awesome barbecue. And that's the thing, is like, you don't have to stop eating all that awesome stuff. Obviously, bread, sugar, dairy, like the big 3, you should really cut back on, have your limits, but you don't really need to cut back on all that stuff. Like, you just need to have a base of dietary fiber to keep that health going, is mm-hmm. what the scientists are seeing and what I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I skip breakfast because I'm intermittent fasting, and then I eat from like 12 to 8 p.m. And in that time, I get a lot of salmon in for my omega-3s. I eat nuts and beans for fiber. And I eat a lot of kale and carrots for my vitamins and fiber, and blueberries for my vitamins.
Awesome.
That's been my go-to diet for a long time now. And I eat for nutrition. Like I coined the term nutritionally efficient diet, where I get the most out of the least amount of food.
I like
And
that.
and most people focus on the taste over the nutrients.
Oh, it's
And
real easy to fall into that trap
yeah,
of comfort food. And, you know, we probably all are during this pandemic. I
yeah.
mean,
I mean, you go to the grocery stores and everything's sold out except the vegetables. And you need the vegetables to boost your immune system to fight off the coronavirus. But we're too focused on getting dry foods, and
it's
that
so,
has no nutrients.
it's so interesting. I don't know if I told you this, but so the Western diet, I think everybody agrees that we need to abandon it. Just about everybody, right? We know that it's bad. And then there's two pathways you can go. It's like fad diet, or you go with like what registered dietitians are saying. One of the things that I did last year is like I just followed 50 registered dietitians on Instagram just to see what are they eating, what are they doing, what are the experts saying, who are they, what are they recommending. Speaking of 90% again, it's like 99% of them are all women. All the expert registered dietitians are women. And what are they posting on Instagram? Just all these beautiful colors of fruits and vegetables and all this amazing food that I have no idea how to make. And, you know, I really need to, you know, figure that out. But just this amazing mixture of all these different fruits and vegetables is really incredible. And then the other path is like you got the carnivore, keto, and that pathway seems to be a lot of non-registered dietitians, so not experts. The thing is, like, they're getting healthy and they're fixing a lot of solutions. It helps people short term, I think, a lot of these diets, like the carnivore diet and the keto diet, and it helps some people. And it actually blew up. It got huge. I think one of the main reasons because of the Joe Rogan show. They had back-to-back carnivores on there. One of them is like one of the sickest people that has ever existed. And she just had a hell of a time, you know, recovering from her illnesses. And she promoted the carnivore diet. It helped her, even though she ended up with C. diff. And then he also had a doctor on there, but millions and millions of followers. And I think people saw that, and even I was captivated by that. I was like, oh, man, should I just eat steaks only? That sounds awesome. And I think it really helps people. If you go from a Western diet to just anything else, I think it can help you out. And there's obviously some science there, the keto and the carnivore and all that. And it's helpful short term. I think it can build muscle mass. But it's just kind of interesting that all the experts are over here. You can hashtag them on Instagram, registered dietitian. You can see what they're eating. And then the other side, it's, you know, this other group. You can be seduced by this because it can work. It's just concerning that for long-term longevity, I mean, the science says that you need to have a base of dietary fiber. The science, gut microbiome science also says, you know, the number one way to promote gut microbiome diversity is with a wide variety of whole plants. That's the number one way. So you want to promote diversity in your gut microbiome. If you don't have a lot of diversity, that's when things like C. diff can pop up.
Yeah, my guess is these carnivores were eating dairy or gluten that were causing them the digestive problems. And when they cut that out and went to an all meat diet, that's when they started seeing the benefits. And in some cases, you can actually be sensitive to vegetables and let's say the salicylates inside the vegetables. So there's a small number of population that also might benefit from going to an all meat diet. My personal opinion is I would not recommend the all meat diet because the omega-6s that are packed inside meats upregulate arachidonic acid, which upregulate leukotrienes and prostaglandins, which are, again, the inflammatory biomarkers that when you have too much can lead to cancers and heart disease.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I would not recommend the all meat diet. But if it works for you, great.
Yeah, well, in our example, she was allergic to lettuce. Lettuce was giving her problems, and spinach. I mean, everything. Just everything. She was allergic to everything. Peterson was her name. I mean, just terrible, terrible stories. And she was like 9 years old.
Yeah. And again, I don't believe in these fad diets because every diet should be tailored and customized towards your specific body. There's no one diet fits all. If you need help testing for your food sensitivities, again, reach out to me because I have a special lab that can do that for you. All these tests that you see on TV only test the IgG antibody, and they're not testing IgE or any of the other inflammatory chemicals that are released inside the body, which my specific test does. So again, a lot of people are misinformed and will get.
And there's a lot of hucksters out there too in that realm. It's like the test that I believe that you're associated with is like one of the ones that works. There's only like one or two. There's not that many food sensitivity tests. But if you see them on the internet, they're all over the place. But those are useless. Same with this gut microbiome tests. Those are pretty much useless too. There's only like one or two. Well, there's a handful that work. But in order to get to understand the data, that's a whole different story. Like when you send in your information to some of these places, like, oh, you're sensitive to this, you need to stop eating this. These genetic tests and everything too. It's like 9 out of 10 of those are just complete garbage. It's incredible how much stuff is out there. There's like the one that you're doing, there's one. And I really think there's one test that's good. There's one sensitivity test. Mm-hmm. I believe that's the one you're associated with. And, very similar to these gut microbiome tests. There's a lot of them out there. And you're like, oh, I'm really into this. I want to check it out. Similar to what I did. I went to an award-winning, data scientist, but they didn't give me any recommendations. They're like, we can't tell you any information about this. That's not what real scientists do. There's like, you would have to do a study for this. This is like really complicated stuff. There's nothing they can recommend after, a few tests. One of the things that I discovered in my test, though, which is kind of interesting because I have psoriasis, over 70% of psoriasis sufferers share a gut microbiome profile where you're more prone to bacterial translocation through gut permeability. So, like one of the solutions is, you got to eat more like fruits and vegetables, dietary fiber, and keep your thing together. If not, you're more prone to this bacteria getting into your system through your gut wall. So like if you have alcohol, or if you take over-the-counter pain medication or gluten, or a number of things, you're even more prone than the average person to have sensitivities in your gut that's going to show up on your skin. And I think that's what happens to me. It's like if I go out and have like the right grain alcohol or scotch for a few nights in a row, if I'm on vacation or something, hello, my skin's back. It happens pretty quick. So that's kind of what I uncovered looking at, like, I share a gut microbiome profile with psoriasis sufferers. It's pretty interesting. And so that was pretty wild. And then that led me to learn about Dr. Eli. Did you hear about Dr. Eli's study, a protocol for the cure to psoriasis? Mm-hmm. Have you heard about this? I mean, it's really, really fascinating. I need to send it to you. I don't know. Are you interested in psoriasis at all?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. I got to send you this paper. I mean, it's really incredible. He basically summarizes, 25 years of investigating the gut, liver, skin axis in psoriasis sufferers. And it matches the patients that have like this gastric bypass surgery. For some reason, his expertise ended up being in both places. And he realized like how similar the livers are and the two groups. And he kind of put together this protocol. I mean, in his paper, in the summary, that's how he describes it. He's at UC Davis, a protocol for the cure to psoriasis. And you just go down the list. If you have, I think he starts with, you can have a infection in your gut, and it's like 60% plus of psoriasis patients, so not everybody, but you start there at the top, have a bacteria in their gut that really needs to be handled. Otherwise, you're going to have it forever. And it's not just going to go away on its own. It's there. That's like the first step to test and see if you have it. And that is a strain of strep that is in your gut that you need to get rid of if you have it. And then, so that's the first thing. And then the second thing is bile acids, which is kind of bizarre, but you take these bile acids, this bowl full of pills every single day. Bile acids and bioflavonoids is the missing pieces that he's determined. So after you take care of the strep, and you use those, along with a few other things as well. Probiotics can be one of those. And then what happens is that at the end of that, you're like reversed, and it's incredible. And I talked to some friends that have been on that protocol and have included probiotics and the right diet and everything, and it works.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I was talking to a girl who had psoriasis, and it was actually caused by a strep infection, which releases all these inflammatory chemicals inside the body, including cytokines like interleukin-1 beta and TNF alpha, which initially helps to fight off the strep bacteria and helps fight off bad pathogens and viruses as well. But sometimes the body just produces too much of these inflammatory chemicals, and it doesn't know when to shut off. When you have too much inflammation built up, then it can lead to symptoms in the skin, and it can also lead to symptoms in other areas. And her solution was to get Humira, which blocks TNF, tumor necrosis factor, in order to reduce inflammation, and that's how she was able to heal her skin. Well, there's plenty of foods that can reduce TNF inside the body, some of them being fish oil, which contains EPA and DHA. Turmeric is an amazing root that reduces inflammation and reduces TNF. And I've made videos on my channel, and you can look them up, where I describe the science behind how we can reduce inflammatory chemicals naturally using food as the ultimate medicine. You don't need drugs. You don't need topicals. You just need good food.
Yeah, that could be possible, depending on who your doctor is and what your doctor says. I agree with that. So did she get tested for strep? Did they eradicate it? Did they get rid of it?
So she healed from strep, but her body was producing
with antibiotics.
I'm not exactly sure how, but but her body healed, but she had too much inflammation inside built up, and that resulted in her getting psoriasis, and she had to go on Humira to heal her psoriasis.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. So I heard Dr. Eli talking in one of his on a radio program, and he was talking about how this Lactobacillus Rhamnosus, which is a species of probiotic that can protect the liver of I think the study was in Russia, where I think it was done on maybe prisoners that had fatty liver disease, or they might have been alcoholics. But when they took this Lactobacillus Rhamnosus, it protected the liver, and they weren't affected as much anymore. So there's so many little elements, which is pretty interesting. So by the way, there is an announcement. Did you hear that Lactobacillus Rhamnosus has a new name?
I did not hear about that.
Yeah, so Lactobacillus Rhamnosus, the species, has been renamed Lactobacillus Bacillus Rhamnosus. So a little bit more of a mouthful now.
Interesting. Do you have to change your packaging?
Yeah. Next run. So we're going to have this labeled the way it is for a while, but scientists have renamed it. There's been a few more too. Yeah, like Lactobacillus plantarum has been renamed. Lactobacillus salivarius. Just kind of reorganize it, which they do from time to time.
Yeah, and it's important to note for the listeners out there that this is cutting edge science. Like, this is the latest research on health and on longevity. And it really starts with the gut. When you have a healthy gut, you have a healthy immune system. So you can fight off viruses, you can fight off strep infections, you can fight off all these pathogens that are trying to harm you. But you have to start optimizing your health starting today. There's no time to waste. When you waste time, when you don't eat the right foods, then you're more susceptible to these viruses and pathogens. And then you get sick. And then you have to go through the healthcare cycle and trying to get better, where doctors and dermatologists will give you more drugs. And the right way to heal is through food. The right way to prevent medical conditions is through food as well.
100%. 100%. I agree with that. And I think most people do too. Nobody wants to be on a whole bunch of drugs.
But they don't really get it though until it clicks. When you get blindsided by a medical condition, then it clicks. When you don't, then you don't have you're not motivated to change your life. You're not motivated to change your behavior. You're not motivated to stop eating delicious food. But healthy food can be delicious as well. You just gotta change your mindset. But 99% of the listeners and viewers out there haven't experienced the medical condition that debilitates you in your own bed, where you're bleeding all over the sheets. When that happens, then it clicks, and then you start optimizing your health and start biohacking your health for longevity so that you can live to 300 years old, right?
All right. Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. If you and I live to 300, we have a follow-up to this interview. It'd be so much smarter.
Yeah, and I've been talking, and just yesterday I interviewed Oz Garcia, who is a world-renowned biohacker, who is a nutritionist for celebrities and Fortune 100 CEOs. And some of his clients include Hilary Swank and Naomi Campbell and Heidi Klum. And
Nice.
we were talking about biohacking and how he is almost 70 and he looks 50. And my channel will also be focused on biohacking methods where we can activate the longevity genes called sirtuins inside the body using supplements and lifestyle choices in order for us to add 5 or 10 years to our lives. And who knows, this is the 21st century. The technology is increasing and evolving at an exponential rate. We could reach immortality in our lifetime. Who knows, you know? Yeah, but I want to share how we can biohack our lives and reach an optimal level of health to millions of listeners and billions of viewers out there.
Awesome, man. Love it.
What's been the biggest challenge in creating Skinesa?
I would say the marketing. Just like, how do we stand out versus everybody else? Because we're, 1 in 500 probiotics, are backed by published science. Nobody really cares. The general consumer doesn't understand that. So it's taken time to get reviews. And the probiotic takes probably, usually 60 days or more to work. Typically like 5 to 6 weeks, people see results. But, in the probiotic, in the clinical trials was, 60 to 90 days. 90 days is where 92% of people saw, the best results. So it takes some time to sell the probiotic to people and then for them to test it and then for them to reach back out to us and tell us that it worked. And that's been happening, but it's been a process. It takes a long time. So now we're at the stage where we need to get people to send us videos. That's what the general consumer wants to see. They want to see videos of the consumer before and after pictures and all this. Well, when's the last time that you just randomly send in before and after pictures, to some random company? That takes time, and we're getting some of those. So it just takes time, and it's hard to stand out, because we kind of started off as like a scientific research probiotic company. And it's like, okay, now we have to digitally market this thing. And, that's like a whole nother aspect of it. And we're planning on doing that with reviews and pictures. Our reviews are available on the site, and we're getting lots of them that are, that keep us going, really. It's like you see these reviews and you're like, wow, It's working for people. This is incredible. So we just keep going. And yeah, that's really the biggest struggle is, you know, getting the marketing down and just keeping the growth going, you know, day by day. It's expensive. I don't know if you've ever done any Facebook ads or YouTube ads, marketing. So yeah, it's expensive and it takes time, you know, to get in front of people and then, you know, show them, you know, that this is like a one-of-a-kind product, like some of these other products. But you have to stand out next to all this other stuff that you look the same as on the surface. Everything backed by science, everything, it's all very similar. I saw a chocolate bar the other day backed by science. It's like, all right, well, maybe that wasn't the best moniker for us starting out, but it is true. You know, we're backed by science. We just happen to be lucky enough to get ingredients that were published in the world's top dermatology journal and put them in a bottle and send them to your door. So you get a 9 out of 10 chance that it's going to work for you, which is huge. But, you know, crafting that message and who it's coming from, hearing it from me is one thing. You know, I have like a radio face and not a radio voice. So we need to, like, you know, get the customers out there and have them, you know, give the video reviews. I think that's really our next big push. Because right now we have a lot of text reviews, which are great, but one step at a time. That's probably been the hardest thing. Putting together a probiotic blend that is an original has been really, really challenging. But I mean, there were lots and lots and lots of delays, delay after delay after delay, for just one regulatory reason after another. To do it the right way, to keep all of these organisms alive, it is like a real challenge to get the right experts involved. And, you know, you're starting off with smaller batches. A lot of these other places are gigantic companies that are selling, you know, hundreds of thousands of bottles a month. So here we are, this, you know, small startup, you know, trying to get off the ground. It's a little bit more challenging. You don't get the same weight some of these other places that are pumping out 100,000 bottles a day. So yeah, it was a real challenge. We had a lot of delays starting up, getting everything done the right way. We got it done the right way, but yeah, it was challenging.
Got it. Well, my podcast and my YouTube channel will propel you to the next level. And if you want to check out Skinesa, I will leave the link in the description box below. And you brought up a good point that there are living microorganisms inside these pills. And it takes a lot of effort and research to combine them into a pill that will survive the digestive process and help you see clear skin based on the clinical results. So a lot of R&D went into this. And if you want,
it took them over 10 years
to
come up with it. And, you know, to find the strains, categorize the strains, then research the strains, and then find out which ones, when combined, work together the best with the result on the skin, and then test them in dermatology clinics, then present that data to dermatology journals for acceptance for publication. And it just happened to be validated by, the ingredients have been validated by the world's top dermatology journal, which is over a 10-year process to do all of that.
Yep.
We weren't involved specifically in that. We're more on the marketing side. We went out and found these ingredients, and we're working with the scientists to bring it to the world.
And with that, where can the billions and trillions of viewers and listeners find your product?
Skinesa.com, nice and easy.
And you can use my affiliate link in the description box because it supports my channel and I can continue making awesome health content for you guys. All right. Thank you, Eric, so much for joining the podcast. Please stay safe. Please stay healthy. And remember, guys, food is the ultimate medicine. And I want to help you biohack your life for healthier skin and for longevity. As always, Taco is out.